In this lecture, I'm going to show you a general overview of Scribus and how to get started using Scribus 1.4.8. We're going to produce a menu for an Italian restaurant, or the first page of a menu for an Italian restaurant that is going to look like this. So we will use Scribus and learn some basic tools to produce a very simple menu. So to start, we launch Scribus. And when Scribus opens, the first thing we are going to want to do is pick a single fold or single page. We've got our settings for letter, portrait, 8.5 by 11, so we don't need to make any changes there. But if that's not the case, then you want to adjust those before you create your document. All right then, we don't need any margins on this particular menu. So just change all these numbers here to 0. The left, the right, the top, and the bottom. Change them all to 0 and click OK, and a basic document will open for us to start working on. All right, the first thing we want to do is create a gray background for this menu. We're not going to worry about color. Obviously, in the future, when we get into more detail, you want to use color, but for now, we're going to keep everything simple, black and white. So what I want to do is to create a shape, a rectangular shape. I can click on Insert Shape or Image, Insert Shape, and I can select a rectangle. Or I can click on the S key and I will get the shape menu. So we want to move the plus sign here all the way to the corner, and we want to drag it all the way across the entire grid and down to the bottom. Now, if you're unable to drag the rectangle to the bottom of the grid, don't worry, we'll fix that in the next step. If you haven't clicked somewhere else on your screen, your new rectangle is still selected, which you can see by the fact that it's outlined in red and that there are dots in the corners. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to go to Windows and Properties. And you see now that you can also get the properties by clicking on F2. For now, we'll go this way and up pops a menu. We want this particular background to cover the entire grid. So we want to set the width to 8.5 inches and the height to 11 inches. We also want to set the XY positions to 0, which you'll learn about why we do that in a future lesson. All right, now we've got the shape that covers the entire grid. We want to give it a name. So we're going to call it background. And then we want to go to the colors palette here. You'll see here there's no gray if you scroll through the colors list. So what we want to do is we want to select black and then change the shade. Now, as you notice, as I decrease the shade, the color gets lighter and lighter. So let's do a 20% gray background, and that now gives us a background for our menu. Now, to make sure that our background is not changed accidentally, we want to go back to the XYZ tab, and we want to click on the lock button. All right, now that the background is created, we can close this properties window and we want to insert a photo. We want to insert the photo of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So what we need to do is click on the Insert Image frame and draw a box where we want the photo to be inserted. All right, let's draw it starting in the corner. Again, push all the plus all the way up to the corner and create a frame here that will hold the image. We can adjust it later if we need to. So we right click on the frame and get image, and that will open a dialog box where we can go to find our pictures. If you downloaded all of the files that I included in the exercise, you can go to the directory and find your photo. Here, Pisa, copyright, Rayluck, PNG. And it's a picture of the Leaning Tower Pisa. So I can click on OK, and now the photo will appear on your page. But you'll say, wait a minute, that's not a photo, it's all black. So what you want to do is right click again and click on Adjust Image to Frame. Click on that, and now your frame, your image, the entire image will appear in the box that you created. Now you see the box is too big, so what we can do is on the button on the far right of the frame, when you hover over it, you'll see arrows. Click on that and move the right margin to make the frame match the size of the photo. And that's all you need to do to insert a picture into Scribus. Now the rest of what we're going to be doing here is working with text. So we go to Insert and then Insert Text Frame. So I want to click on that, and then I will get a text frame that I can insert into my text. So I want to pretty much align it with the photo, but I want to leave a little bit of space on the right margin here, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, now to insert the text, I can just double click and you can see that the prompt that comes up here. So the name of the pizzeria is Papa Peppino's Pizzeria. So obviously if we left it like that, it wouldn't look very good. So we want to change the font. And the font I've chosen that I like for this particular thing, which is a Romanesque looking font. It looks a little bit Italian, ancient Rome. So I highlight the text, then I go to, once again, Windows, Properties, and then we click on Text, and we search for the font that we want to use. The font that I've chosen is called Castellar. And as you can see, it looks a little bit Italian. So now we see that the size is too small. So I want to make this go up to as big as it can fit on the frame, which is going to be about 36 points. Now we see 36 points went off a little bit. So let's go down to 35. And that's still too big. So let's go down to 34, 33, 32. And finally around 30 is about the right size. All right, then we can go back to the text box and we want to enter more text. So we type in the address. Let's do that. 123 Main Street, Scott Depot, West Virginia, and the phone number 304 555 5555, and the website www.pepinoswestvirginia.com. All right, now we could just stop there with the information, address information, but this is something that you're going to want to play with a little bit once you start doing some real design work here. I think the font size is okay, but what we need is to have a little bit more excitement here. So let's right justify it and let's say, okay, I think this would be better. Not only right justified, but also down lower in the box. So we can add some blank lines down here to push the box. All right, now you can see why I left a little space here between the actual end of the page and the and the address information, because I didn't want this coming all the way up to the margin. So the same thing here with the heading. We can add in front, we can add an extra blank line so that it doesn't look like it's right up against the margin. All right, we have our heading. So the next thing we want to do is insert the text box for the slogan. So again, I do insert text frame, and I will put it here underneath the actual heading. Now we double click to get into the frame, and then we click the slogan, "You've had the rest, now try the best." All right, the font's fine for me, I think, but let's go back to properties, and then for the text, we want to go up to something that pretty much will fit the whole box. So that's probably going to be around 30. See it as it gets larger. And to add a little bit more excitement, we can make this italic. To do that, we could click on the style settings, or we can just click on the box underneath the font here, and we can just do italic. Now the spacing doesn't look very good, so we can click on center, and now we have the text. So now we have the text centered horizontally, but not vertically. So what I can do is just add an extra space in front of the line, and now it's centered in the box. So now I have my slogan. Now the next thing we want to do is insert the text boxes that we're going to use for the menu parts. So let's put in two text boxes here that we want to be approximately the same size. I can show you in a future lecture or show you how to do alignment without doing it manually, but for now, let's just do it manually. All right? Now the next thing we want to do is insert the text boxes that we're going to use for the menu parts. So let's put in two text boxes here that we want to be approximately the same size. I can show you in a future lecture, or I'll show you how to do alignment without doing it manually, but for now let's just do it manually. All right, I make a box, insert text frame, and I want to bring it here And then I want to have another box at about the same size. So what I can do, since the box is still highlighted, I could do a copy and then a paste, or Control C or Control V, sorry. And I want to manually move it so that it's aligned. And I probably want to space this so it's kind of like equal on the screen here. So again, we want to do this manually for now so that they're pretty much aligned. All right, the next thing I want to do is put in a little bit of a header. So in one box, I want to type in the text pizza. And in the other box, I want to type pasta. Now we want to make these a little bit larger. So the first thing we want to do is insert a blank line in front so it's not right at the margin. And then we want to highlight the text and go again to Windows Properties and make the text a little bit larger. I think font size 24 probably work best. Again, these are design decisions that you have to make when you're doing your own. So we make these 24. And then again, I think we want to have them centered. So we have pasta and we have pizza. All right, the other thing I want to do is I want to put in a line. It just cuts the headings off from the other part of the menu, and so we can then do a copy too so that the lines are the same length. The insert, the line, and then we can do a copy and a paste, and then I can move the pasted line over to the other box. And so now that we've got the headings, I want to do one final step, which is to put in 4 columns of text that are roughly going to be about the same size. So I will do a copy and a paste. So I create the first box by doing an insert text frame, and I draw it here. Then I want to do a copy, and then I want to do a paste and move the second box. Try to line it as best as possible. And then do a third. Again, trying to line it as best as possible. And then a fourth. All right, so we've got our 4 columns now, and as you know, the food is going to go in one column and the price in the other. So you could go in and type all this stuff manually, but one of the features of Scribus is that I've already included my text in a Word document. So all I need to do is to click on the top column and click on Get Text. I want to right click on the mouse, Get Text, and find the Word document that contains my data. So first we're doing pizza, click on the file, click on OK. Then we click on the second one, Get Text, click on Prices, Pizza Prices, then click on the third one, Get Text, Pastas, and then click on the fourth one, get text, pasta prices. All right, so I've got my text already imported from another source. The only other thing I need to do now is to go back to Windows Properties. And let's make this a little nicer here. So how do we do that? We click on the text bar, and then we are going to adjust the line spacing. So here you see line spacing. We can increase that. So let's increase it to, let's say 24. And you see as we do that, the text spreads out a little bit more and looks better. So then we need to do that for every one of the text frames. So 24, oops, that was 25, 24, here again, 24, and then finally 24. Now you see something went wrong here because the prices are not lining up with the original items here. And what we see, the problem is that two of these items flowed over into a second line. So what we need to do is move these. Probably the best thing here at this point would be to take this box, this box, and move it a little bit towards the margin, and this box, and move it a little bit towards its margin. And then let's see if we have enough room now to expand the box so that it aligns. All right, it's being a little bit difficult. So what we can do is what I wanted to do anyway. We want to put the prices on the right margin instead of the left. So we go to text and we want to do right justified. And the same thing over here. Don't want that move. So we do right justified. And that gives us a little bit more space over here. So then we can drag the bar for the boxes a little bit more so that now you see the marinara meatballs and marinara sausage are all on one line and the prices are all aligned just as they are with the pizzas. So the last thing we need to do for this is close the property boxes, and then keep in mind that Scribus is not a document, it's a page layout. So to create your document, and you may want to save your project too, but to create your document, you have to export it. So we go to File, Export, and you can save it in the various formats. I'm going to save it as a PDF file, which I can then later print out if I want to. So I click on Save as PDF, and I want to change where it's going to save. So I want to put it into my library. And then we click on Save, or we can rename the document Pepino Menu, or anything you want to call it. And then click on OK. Click on Save, and the document will be converted into a PDF file. And that looks like how you have a basic overview of Scribus.